And today I have Andrew Link with the Post Bulletin. He is their online editor. Welcome, Andrew. How are you today?
I'm good, Jamie. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for doing this for us.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us about the online editor position and what it is you do in that role?
Sure. So the main responsibilities for the online editor position is kind of managing our online presence for Post Bulletin newspaper, and then so postbulletin.com. So managing the home page, staff articles, other kind of content that we could pull from our kind of partnering organizations, and managing our social media and pumping out our content to our audience, to our readers, along with newsletters and another task is analytics, watching analytics, website analytics, tracking what is doing well, what's not doing well, and sharing that information with reporters and other editors to make a determination whether or not we need to keep covering that or if there's something else we need to do more. So those are kind of the main roles that I have as online editor.
And you've been in this role for about how long?
Just about a year now. I was a photographer for 10 years before that, and kind of fell into the role after showing interest in it at previous employer and also at the Post Bulletin. Just kind of dabbling with online presentation, and as a visual journalist, visual person, having that interest kind of goes hand in hand, because usually everybody else is worried about the words and stuff and how it reads, and nobody's really taking any consideration for how it actually presents, the visual side of it. So I kind of stepped in and have been helping until I got the role as online editor position.
So take me through those 10 years as a video and photo person. What is it that you were doing, and how did that translate into the printed paper that we see today?
Sure. Let's see, should I go with my history or talk about just as, okay, so I went to school at Winona State, grew up in the southwest of the Twin Cities area, so went to school at Winona, and didn't have any idea what I wanted to do there. And kind of fell into a class of photography, and the professor was the photo editor for the Winona Daily newspaper. So that kind of got me hooked. I'm thinking, oh, photography, that can't be too hard to do it on a daily basis. So I got hooked right away and got a part-time job at the Daily News like the next semester, and then worked there until I graduated. And I had they had a program which was mass communications with photojournalism emphasis. I think that's changed now. They've kind of evolved into like a digital imaging type of program. I'm sure it's about the same, but it's not quite, just maybe just different label. And once I graduated there, I had to do an internship. Well, I didn't have to, I just chose to do a 6-month internship down in Davenport, Iowa, which is about the same size as Rochester with other neighboring cities. And that was significantly bigger than Winona. And I had a lot of opportunity there, covering many different things, from semi-pro sports to a lot of spot news like shootings and other emergency situations. So that was really exciting. Then from there, my first job was in Sheldon, Iowa, which is in the northwest corner of the state, which is kind of by Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I was there for a little bit. It was only a weekly paper. I wanted to work at a daily paper, so I quickly, within a year, went to West Bend, Wisconsin, which is over by Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and worked there for just a year until Winona had their opening for their photo editor position, and I quickly took the position and came back to Southeast Minnesota. With all those places, Winona included, as a photographer, I was covering sports, which is a big thing for a lot of small papers, high school sports, covering news, meetings, emergency situations, fires, anything police related. And then also a lot of portraits, features about people, you know, who just have interesting stories. Somebody who collects, you know, I remember something in Winona, someone who just had a room full of Elvis memorabilia, and the timing was around that of maybe Elvis's birthday or death. So we kind of hooked that in, and, you know, getting invited into their home, into this room, and then seeing all this Elvis memorabilia is, you know, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting job because you get invited into a lot of places you probably never would even imagine. So, and then from Winona, I was there for 5 years, and then came to Rochester for the Post Bulletin, and was a photographer here for 4 years before last year taking the online editor position. And as a photographer here, Rochester is kind of the same. We are trying to dabble a little more into video than my previous papers have. So that's another skill that photographers are going to be expected to know, most likely, anytime we hire anybody. It's just another way to, you know, tell stories, communicate. Yeah.
So these pictures, I had another video today when they had talked about needing writing skills. With your pictures and images, do you have to then create the storyline that goes with the images, or are you solely taking the pictures and handing them off to someone else to write about them?
Sure. As mostly it is, you know, in a perfect world, it would be kind of a split between a reporter having the story idea or the photographer generating the story idea. In a lot of places I worked, it's always, a lot of it's been the reporter side. They have the story idea. We need photos to go with it. Therefore, the photographer gets assigned to shoot whatever is needed. So that's typically how it goes here in Rochester too. But if a photographer has an idea, you know, we are more than welcome to take the lead on it and then try and get a reporter to jump on too, so to help tell the story. Okay.
And it sounds like you really enjoyed those years of doing the photography. Mm-hmm. What is so great about it that you've enjoyed?
Like I mentioned, is meeting a lot of different people and the experiences, having access to places you never thought you'd get to go. When Trump visited Rochester, I was able to be in the pool of reporters. So I went to Rochester International Airport and waited for Air Force One, I think it was Air Force One or Air Force Two, to arrive. And then as soon as he got in here, so I was taking pictures and video, and as soon as they arrived, they went into the vans, and I was in the motorcade that from Rochester, from the airport over to the Civic Center, and just following, seeing all the people on the side of the roads, and just kind of being the behind the scenes, you know, and I was front row to the president. So it's kind of experiences like that, you know, it's a really lucky job to have, especially when you think about it. And covering a lot of sports, going to state tournaments, you know, being able to capture those moments for a lot of these people that these are, you know, some of these are the most exciting times of their lives. And being able to be there and have memorabilia for that, it's great.
What started you when you were young to want to go into that field? Because your description was kind of, that was your college focus. So how did you decide that?
No idea what I wanted to do. Went through multiple kind of majors in school. Wanted to be a cop for the longest time growing up, but yeah, I don't know. I think I just fell into it. There was no plan for it at all. And I can't really explain why I kind of fell in love with it. But it was just there, and it was fun. So I just went with it.
And you mentioned the variety of things you get to do, but what would you say somebody would need skill-wise, technical or soft skills, to do a career like this?
Sure. For photography, man, I would say it's just, you learn by doing. So you're not going to learn how to work with people, work with subjects, like especially for portraits, and trying to maneuver them and get them to feel comfortable. You really learn by doing, and same with the technical skills. You can read it all in a book, but when you're doing it on location, having to deal with the different surroundings that you have, the different lighting surroundings, it's really by experience, and you just kind of learn as you go. That's why you see a real growth from a young photographer over the next few years. I mean, they get so much better when they're starting to shoot full time, because they have the previous experience to base their choices off of. And yeah, so it's the skills are kind of learn as you go. For online position, I would say HTML coding does help a bit. I don't do a whole lot of it, but having the basic knowledge of it and being able to Google it when I need to is always good. And then just having a news sense, which is not necessarily a skill you can learn, but just knowing what your community wants to read about is another important skill, especially as an editor position, because you're making a lot of decisions on what we are going to determine to put resources on. So
That's a good point. So do you or your team have to be a part of the community and involved at different events to know what's going on, or how do you know what they want to read and know about?
Sure. So we get a lot of press releases which tell us about events that are happening. And for the most part, we do at least something on all of them, everything that comes in, just to share it with the rest of the world. But it's just kind of knowing the community and seeing also what the analytics are saying about stories. If we do a story on, let's say, the Federal Medical Center COVID cases and stuff, and we've done a number of stories on that, and we can track how each story has done, and at least the online side of it, we can determine how much effort we should put into it going forward. If nobody's reading the story, then we should be like, okay, then nobody really cares, and maybe we'll just touch on it if something bigger happens, instead of doing an update every time there's one case or something like that. But it's not the same for the news side or the newspaper side, because you can't measure your audience and who's reading what in a print product. So there, we have more experienced editors that are running the paper side, which I don't have any interest in anyway, because I like the web side of it. And they're determining kind of what they think is what people need to know for the paper.
What is it that keeps you coming back to this job every day?
It's a challenge that I like to see. I see instant results from kind of decisions I make every day because of all the analytics that are available from our website. So being able to react to that and then making decisions and then seeing if those decisions play out and how I can be better, how our website can be better, how I can get a reporter to be better. That's really what I like about the web side of our news organization, is kind of the challenge of always trying to be better, because there's always room for growth, especially online. And we just want to keep growing our audience. And yeah, it's a fun challenge.
What would you say a ballpark starting wage for someone just out of college to be a photographer doing newspaper reporting would make?
Sure. When I started 10 years ago at the small paper in Iowa, that was around $20,000 a year, which is scary. But now I know we recently hired somebody that I think we put him around 30,000 as a photographer. So that would probably be the normal rate. Online side, it is an editor position, so it is a position that you need experience for, and I don't think it would be necessarily available for anybody just starting out of college as an editor position.
Perfect. What would you say to youth that are looking for careers, if you had a piece of advice for them, what would you give?
I would say, if you're interested in something specific, go test that career out. Go shadow, go if there's a part-time job there, try it out. That's what I did at the Winona Daily News when I was in school, and I learned a lot more doing that job than I actually did in school, because they can teach you this stuff. They can teach you kind of the basics of journalism, but they're not teaching you how to present yourself to the community and covering a lot of different news events. So definitely get active if you are sure what you want to try, and that way you'll learn either more about it or learn that it's not for you, type of thing.
And if a student is interested specific in photography, what high school classes should they consider?
I would imagine yearbook, if schools have yearbook. Participating in yearbook definitely would give you a step up, because I know they cover a lot of the different events, sports, and they should cover that for yearbook, for the yearbook. So getting active in the yearbook program would be great. And any computer skills also help. Just knowing your way around a computer. Photographers half of their job is sitting at a computer editing their work. So knowing your way around the computer and would definitely help.
All right. And if students wanted to follow up with you for further information or maybe a job shadow, what would be the preferred method that they could reach out to you, Andrew?
Sure, they can email me at alink@postbulletin.com. So that is ALINK@postbulletin.com.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jamie.